I'm Dave Pizzaro for the Dave Pizzaro Show. You're Chris Kanik. Give me a brief overview of who you are as a man, as a dad, as a living, breathing American.
As a living, breathing American, it doesn't get any more patriotic than me. Uh,
All right.
uh, let's see. I guess quick background. I'm the son of two immigrants. Um, my mom fled Cuba. She fled communism to come to this country for a better life, for freedoms that she wouldn't otherwise have in, Cuba.
Yeah.
I was raised, I wouldn't say real poor, but lower socioeconomic class. We lived in low income housing.
Mm-hmm.
Spanish is my first language. Turkish is my second. English is my third language, believe it
Good
or
Lord,
not.
man.
Yeah. Um, Grew up in New Jersey, right outside of Manhattan. I consider myself a city kid. Um, Even though we lived, uh, low socioeconomic uh, area, um, yeah, I was gifted. I was blessed by God with certain
Yeah.
gifts, and I excelled at school. I took my first college chemistry class at the age of 10. I started working
What?
in a lab. Yeah,
Holy crap.
yeah,
That's amazing.
at Montclair State University. That's actually a pretty funny story because the nuns at the school I was going to, they brought my mom a course catalog, and they showed me a course catalog back when everything was on paper and there was no.
Right.
This is phone book era, and uh, they gave it to me and they said, "Here, pick a class." And it's that thick, all little words.
Right.
And you're giving this book to a 10-year-old and you're saying, "Here, pick the path of your future,"
Jeez.
essentially. And I saw chemistry and I said, I like MacGyver. I want to learn how to blow things up. So I picked
Okay.
chemistry and I did pretty well. I did well in the class. I was in a class with 18, 19, 20-year-olds. And then at the age of 12, I started doing research in a laboratory at Stevens Institute of Technology, studying the degradation of of aspartame in diet sodas at room temperature. So, I was
I,
trained.
I gotta ask. Like, wait a second. Like, how
Yeah,
did you come to that as like the thing you wanted to study?
it just sort of happened. It just sort of happened. I excelled at it. I liked MacGyver, and I said, this would be cool, and I was good at it.
But dude,
So,
come on. Like, how is a degradation of aspartame in sodas at room temperature ever going to be useful?
well, this was pre-expiration date. So aspartame breaks down into known carcinogens. And so that's why they started putting expiration dates on diet sodas. Uh, One of the main reasons.
Okay.
Um, and if you look at the history of how NutraSweet was approved by the FDA, it's very, very dirty. For years, the FDA would deny the approval. And then in the 80s, when Reagan came into office, made some changes in the FDA, and then, NutraSweet gets approved as an artificial sweetener.
Right.
Well, who was the majority shareholder of NutraSweet? A guy named Donald Rumsfeld.
Really?
Yeah, but this is all, you could look it up, and uh, uh, for years the data showed, in lab mice, when exposed to aspartame, that uh, the mice would develop tumors and all sorts of and forms of cancers.
Yeah.
And so I thought that was interesting because I loved to drink soda at that time. I mean, I was a poor fat kid. Which poor
Right.
fat kid doesn't want to drink Coke?
Exactly.
you
It's the
know?
easiest, cheapest escape.
Yeah, that's our omega. That's our omega. That's our anti-inflammatory.
Yeah, totally.
you know. So that's why you go into higher socioeconomic areas, you see the kids, they're all fit, they're in shape, blah, blah, blah. You get into poorer communities, most of the kids are obese because
Right.
they're eating fast food, they're eating whatever they can eat, and they're not really educated on nutrition. The nutrition really is, hey, is my belly full? Okay, my belly's full. Now I can move on. And they don't
Yeah.
really understand that. So at 12, I won some science fairs, whatnot, and then I moved on to do research at Rutgers University, in the Department of Nutritional Sciences, and then I studied fatty acid binding proteins. I was published. I won a bunch of symposiums, national symposiums, etc.
Published.
Yeah, and then from there, I studied at Harvard at 16, 17. Yeah, 16, 17. And then I had an overprotective Cuban mom, so she never wanted me to go full time to school. So I did the normal track.
Yeah.
Because I was home, and then on the weekends or during the week, she would drive me to wherever I needed to go. And I guess going to Harvard for a couple months was like the first time I was away from home. And then went back, and then I moved down to a research group in the Department of Aerospace and Engineering at Rutgers University, developing biologically based nanorobots. And so I specifically was isolating the protein on HIV that extends out to our white blood cells. And the way it initiates is that there's a change in pH as it gets closer to the white blood cell, and it latches on. So there's this action. So by isolating the protein and manipulating the pH, you have this motion, which is an actuator. So we're building self-replicating, self-maintaining, all biological machines, essentially, nanorobots, all liquid-based. That was like, 22 years ago, 24 years ago at this point. Wow. So, and then I moved on. I was an American Chemical Society scholar. I moved on to Cornell University. And then at 19, I said, you know what? Fuck this shit. And I want to be a stand-up comic.
You just weren't getting enough accolades.
Yeah. So I was just like, I just want to, I want to go make people laugh. And that's what I enjoy doing. So I almost dropped out of Cornell. My roommate talked me out of it. And I finished with a degree in economics from Cornell.
Okay.
Because I said, all right, well, I don't want to do science anymore. What are all the jocks taking? Business, economics? That can't be that hard. So I petitioned to take all my economics courses within, I think, 2 or 3 semesters or something. All my prerequisites and then all my, all the other classes. And I finished with a degree in economics. And I was a working stand-up comic for about 7-8 years. I was pretty successful. I toured the world, performed at all the improvs in the United States. I was one of the first comedians to figure out how to leverage social media to promote themselves. So I was a MySpace celebrity, if you can remember that.
That's a hard lifestyle, being a comic on the road.
Yeah, but I was 22, 23, living the rock star lifestyle.
Okay, so we know what that means.
It was kind of fun, but I was a nerd at the end of the day. So, I wasn't really into partying. I never did drugs, and, it's cool. Now I'm 42, and a lot of the comics that I started with are all very popular. They're the top 10 earning, 5 of the top 10 earning comics for 2024, guys that like I performed with or I started with. So that's pretty cool. So I moved to California in 2007 because at the end of my improv tour, I was like, holy shit. I ended up, of all places, Orange County in a town called Ladera Ranch, OC housewife country. And I looked around and I said, oh shit, I didn't know they made places like this. I'm going to stay here. I was 23 years old. A month later, 1 suitcase, and I didn't have family. I didn't have anybody. And I made it home. And I said, I don't know what I have to do to figure out how to survive here, but I'm going to figure it out because this is nice. So I felt like a Jefferson,
Right.
It's like I was like, oh shit, from low-income housing or riot-proof dorming to now I'm living in Pleasantville in the bubble of the bubble of the bubble. And I was like, this is nice. So I got disenfranchised with comedy. I got burnt out. I moved to California. I didn't even know how to drive. So I had to get a car. I had to learn how to drive, all that, so. And then in 2011, I was at crossroads in my life, in my mid-20s, and I'm trying to figure out, what am I going to do, blah, blah, blah. My parents are always telling me I'm a failure, crap like that. Yeah.
Like, what have you failed at?
Like, I didn't live up to my potential, blah, 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 this and that. And I'm like, okay.
Jeez.
So I was at a Taco Tuesday, and I'll never forget. I was with a group of people, and the waitress wasn't coming fast enough with the margarita. So I was like, and I had a glass of water on the table, and I said, how awesome would this be if I could just add some powdered alcohol into this glass of water? And so I was like, shit, why has anybody done that? So I grabbed a napkin, I drew out a protocol, and the next day I went to the store, I got some maltodextrin, some Everclear. I shimmied up my kitchen, I turned my frying pan into the world's crudest spray dryer, paper clips, coffee filters, and I blew up my kitchen and I caused a massive fire, but I was also very successful at creating 3 different flavors of powdered alcohol. So I then started going down the rabbit hole, like I can't be the only schmuck who ever came up with this, stuff like that. And then that led me down, why hasn't the government allowed this? And then I realized the government's never going to let you sell free-flowing powdered alcohol.
Right.
For, they claim safety and regulatory issues, but really it's taxation. Because they want to
but it's also, I'm sure that there's a fair number of lobbyists paid for by the traditional alcohol industry to make sure that
absolutely
that happen.
Absolutely. I've confronted all of those people. So
yeah.
I'm very aware. So I actually, when I went down this path, 38 states banned powdered alcohol, and I was able to amend legislation in 2 states, California and Massachusetts, essentially giving us a de facto exclusive. Yeah, the 2 biggest nanny states.
Right.
So I've met those lobbyists. I've met all those people. It's a very dirty, dirty game. But through a game of semantics, I was able to find loopholes in the language and the legislation and show how they were actually contradicting themselves in their own language. And they weren't using stuff properly. And so essentially I have a letter from the Attorney General just saying, just shut up. Here it is. Do what you want to do.
I love it.
So, I'm a bit of a pest, and I'm relentless and I guess tenacious. Testicular fortitude is a term that I like to use every so often.
That's a good one.
Yeah. So, I'm a big wrestling fan. I wrestled in high school for a little while. I actually have a wrestling ring. Yeah. What weight class?
121, 128.
Oh, wow. Okay. Nice.
Yeah, I used to be small.
There you go. I used to be big. So in high school, I ranged in between 220 to 250. So that was me. Yeah. So it was one of those things like, yeah, just step out, get a point. Low center of gravity because I'm 5'4". So
you're 5'4", you were 250?
I was 250. Yeah.
Dude.
Yeah.
You're a little fire plug.
Yeah, I was
That's
just
what we call in the gay community.
Yeah, a fire plug. Yeah. I was just a fire hydrant. I was just like this, like
right.
Boom. So, played football for a little while in high school and all that stuff. So I love sports. Basketball is my passion. I just shot some social media content. I went to New York last week to help my brother. He owns a wrestling toy company that he started with a couple of former WWE wrestlers. Okay. So he was at New York Comic Con, shared in a booth with Sergeant Slaughter. So I'm hanging out with Sergeant Slaughter and whatever. But I went out to New York and I shot some content with George the Messiah. He's a basketball player in downtown New York. So we played one-on-one. It's some fun stuff. So basketball is like my passion. The Knicks. I actually caught a Yankees game last week. I saw the one game they won against the Blue Jays. So sports is always a big thing. So let's say in 2011, I come up with Smart Cups. I go down this journey. Never had dreams of opening up my own business, being an entrepreneur. The next thing you know, I'm running a 23,000 square foot facility. Accolades up the ass. I'm kind of like Happy Gilmore at this point, collecting like checks and dropping them in the back of my car, like forgetting that I even have them. Congressional awards, Time Magazine recognition for best invention of the year. I was invited to be on a Gordon Ramsay TV show where contestants were vying for his investment of $250,000. That was about 2 years ago.
Okay, so let me stop you. Let's dig a little deeper into that. What are Smart Cups?
Okay, so Smart Cups. So Smart Cups is a technology that I developed that allows for the printing of ingredients on surfaces. And so it was developed originally to be a drug delivery system for patients who suffer from dysphagia. And that's the difficulty swallowing tablets. So it's a big problem. Elderly, children, a big problem swallowing tablets. So, but instead of going through FDA clinicals and expensive trials to validate it, with a lot of unknown variables, I decided to commercialize it in the food and beverage industry. And
So
so,
hold on, when you say print ingredients
yeah,
on what,
I'll show you.
like my first thought is, okay, you're talking about like just the printing, the text.
No,
Or are you
no, no.
talking about the
So
actual like the actual
ingredients.
chemical?
Yeah. Chemical's a nasty word. It has a very negative
It's better
connotation.
than drug.
It's
I don't want to say you're
ingredients,
printing
David.
drugs. Like,
David, it's ingredients.
okay, you say ingredients, I hear text.
So here you go. So here's a stack. It's a green apple flavored cognition product that we just launched in July. And so you grab a cup, and you can see right in there,
Okay.
the ingredients are printed right inside of the cup. And so you
Got
add
it.
water, you wait a couple seconds, and then you have it. So
Oh, okay.
we can do the same thing with energy drinks, alcohol, supplements, medications, foods like soups. I've got a social media video on my page where I took a carry-on to Minneapolis with about 100, 150 bowls of printed ramen soups with actual bone broth in there. And I showed up. I go through TSA. TSA is like, "What do you got?" I got about 100, 150 soups in there. They're like, "What the hell?" And I show up to Minneapolis with some hot water, and I feed about 100, 150 homeless in about a 30-minute span.
Okay, so back up. What's when you say ramen? So
Yeah,
I'm thinking like, cup of noodles. Is that what we're
yeah,
talking about?
yeah. But they're stackable, as
Okay.
opposed to having one cup. In that same space, you have 5 cups,
Right.
right? And you grab one, you add hot water, boom. And so
And
because they're
it makes noodles and bone broth and like
Yep,
rehydrates vegetables. So it's
yep,
that same technology, but just more
yep,
compact.
correct, yeah.
Okay.
And so we've printed that. We've printed pet supplements and disposable recycled paper, dog and cat bowls. Um, I've printed laundry detergent on shirts just to display that we can print anything on anything. I've printed mouthwash in those same paper cups, so you just add water, so you eliminate the liquid, the bulky plastic bottle, etc. So by printing ingredients on surfaces, you eliminate liquid from consumer products. And by
Right.
eliminating liquid from consumer products, you drastically reduce storage, transportation requirements, unnecessary packaging,
Yeah. No, I mean,
extend shelf life, eliminate
it's a brilliant
refrigeration.
idea because you're going to cut down on shipping costs, shipping time. It's going to be easier. It's going to be more fuel
Yeah,
efficient. Like brilliant. Absolutely
yeah.
brilliant.
So
Now, while
UCLA.
you're saying all of that, I also have to say, like, here, cul-de-sac detour.
Mhm.
My crazy brain is like, oh, so you actually invented just add water.
That's actually a running joke around here. That's a running
I
joke.
bet. Yeah, I'm sure. Okay,
Yeah.
let's get back to you
Hey,
being smart.
I printed water. You just add water, okay, guys? No, but some of the bigger picture applications, being able to provide micronutrients and life-saving medications to people around the world is really
Yeah.
the deeper passion behind all this. Not necessarily instant alcohol, even though I have powdered alcohol in my office all over the place.
Right.
And so,
For sure. I mean, just think about what you could do. Like, you drop a pallet of these into an area like, Haiti goes through some hurricane. No one's got food. All they need is like bottled water and this stuff, and now
yep,
they've got nutrition
that's right. Yep,
to get them at least through. It's not a long-term solution, but it's at least going to get them through, a week or two while we're putting
yep,
other things. That's genius.
yeah. I'd like to believe so. I've dedicated the last 15, 16 years of my life to it. So,
Dude, that sounds like
um,
something to just go get a big fat contract from, UNICEF or American Red
yeah,
Cross or any of the
we
aid
have
agencies.
we have a development deal with the U.S. Army, so we're developing a few SKUs with them. We have some. You see, there was no manufacturing equipment that ever existed for this technology, so we took the phased approach to launching. When we
Mhm.
commercialized initially in 2018, we had very limited production capacity. We could only produce about 400 cups in an 8-hour period.
Yeah.
But a year ago, I took a step back in 2020, right before COVID, and I said, we have to focus on engineering and scaling because all these big companies are interested in this technology, and how do we really mass produce this? So a year ago, after 4.5 years and a little over $8 million in investment in capital, we installed our fully automated production line, patented it, engineer constructed it. So it sits here in our manufacturing facility, and that's going to enable us to take on enterprise opportunities, to be able to take on those UNICEF or Red Cross contracts. The problem is, at the height of my career, and I think the reason why we're on this podcast is, at the height of my career, divorce, a very ugly one,
A
to
nightmare.
be at that.
Sorry.
And it's been probably the hardest 1.5 year, 18-month period of my life. And just keeping everything together. You see, I have 3 kids. Oldest one turned 17 in July. He's a monster, about 6'4", 340, I think, at this point.
Dang.
Yeah.
That's a big
My
boy.
ex-wife is like 6'1". I will say this. This is a funny story. I'm in trial a couple weeks back, and my divorce attorney, she looks at me. It's the second day of trial. I've got all my witnesses around me that never got to take the stand.
Yeah.
Because her lawyer sucked up all the time on nonsense. And because they're trying to get me on a DV charge, right? And I'm exhausted. I just can't take it anymore, right? Like I'm ready to throw in the white flag. And you know, at the other end of the cafeteria is my ex-wife with her mom and her dad. Her mom, who flew in from St. Louis, who was mean mugging me the whole time we were in court.
Of course.
Her dad, who I took care of for 12 years, you know, who still owes me $2,200. My in-laws, who abducted my dog last October and took it to St. Louis, the only dog that I ever had a connection to. And the attorney, who all she cares about is billable hours and getting me on sanctions so that she could get paid on her $250,000 invoice, right?
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
And you know, and I'm sitting there, and my lawyer looks at me, she goes, "Can I ask you a question?" I said, "Sure. How the fuck did you end up marrying such a dumb bitch?" And I looked at her. I
can't tell you how many times I've asked that exact same question.
Yeah. And I'm just standing there, all vulnerable, giving the most honest answer possible. It wasn't, "Hey, she was beautiful. Hey, she this, that." No, I just said, "Listen, I just wanted normal-sized kids. I didn't want a house full of fucking jockeys, okay? I wanted to propagate the species up, not keep it stagnant or go down, okay?"
That's a genius answer.
So, and everyone lost their fucking minds. Because really, the height difference between us is like this, right?
Yeah, so, sounds like it.
Yeah.
Which should actually play in your favor for the domestic violence, one would hope.
You'd imagine that, but that's a whole different story. Like, I have a video that they played on the second day of her drunk, punching me, kicking me, spitting on me on the streets of Austin, Texas, when I was invited out there to do a speaking engagement. And on the final night that we were there, and they play it, but they play it off my computer, onto a projector, onto a screen. So by the time the judge sees it on the screen, it's all distorted and pixelated and discolored. Right. And the judge is like, "I really don't see what you're describing here. She looks like she's walking fine. She doesn't appear to be drunk." I'm like, "Are you out of your fucking mind?" And I'm like, I'm like, go in your chambers, look at it on your phone, look it out on your computer, because you're going to get the raw file. And then you come back and you tell me you don't see what we see, you know, because everybody I've shown it to is like, "Oh yeah," you know? So there's that aspect of it that's frustrating. They questioned me on the stand 3 weeks ago. Her attorney's like, "Did you ever tell Vito, I don't want to use his name, but did you ever tell your son to grow the fuck up?" I was like, "Yes. Every day like a multivitamin." And, you know, he played at a nationally ranked high school football team, baseball team. You know, I provided him the best opportunities. And, you know, I was just trying to overcome. And I adopted him.
You were being a dad is what you were being.
I was being a dad, yeah. And I adopted him at the age of 3. We never told him, because I never wanted him to know the ugliness behind his biological father, you know, who was deported for actually beating him up at 6 months old.
Oh, geez.
And so, you know, he never knew. Maybe he had his suspicions or whatever, but whatever. But in May, her lawyer sends my lawyer an email and says, as you know, Mr. Kanik is not Vito's biological father. Mrs. Kanik believes that it's time for him to know the truth. And I'm sitting there, I go, that is the most fucked up thing I've ever. They are using this child and they think it's okay. And this kid is at the fork in the road in his life.
Yeah.
He's either going to go D1 or get into the Ivy as a legacy and play football and baseball in the Ivy, or get a D1 scholarship, or he's going to end up being so fucking emotionally fucked up that he's going to go this way.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, the only person who's going to pick up the pieces and take care of this kid later on in life, when he's a grown man and he realizes how fucked up the world is, bills are expensive, getting laid as a guy takes work, and you got to be, like, those are the real.
It's dangerous these days, but yes.
Yeah, right. And I'm going to go, he's not an academically strong kid. I feel so bad. Last week, before I went to New York, I ran into a teammate of his, and I got to be careful because I have a restraining order against the kids and this and that. So I play stupid. I'm like, oh yeah, you're a football player on this. He doesn't attend the private school anymore.
Right.
That's another story. My wife ended up going over there and telling everybody at a school that I volunteer at. I was one of the key parents at, I guest spoke at, I took interns in, and I wrote letters of recommendation to get their seniors into their dream schools. And I went the extra mile to go find the regional admissions officers and go have lunch with them and talk up the kids and shit like that to get these kids into their schools. So I was that parent at the school. And I did all that because I said, hey, that's going to help Vito because,
Sure.
a better standing. I know how the game is played. I watched all the rich kids in the Ivy League, and how their parents operated.
All about who you know.
So she ends up going to the school because his grades started slipping because he wasn't studying with me, because she was filling his head with all this crap. And so he wasn't working with me. So his grades, now he's getting D's and F's and C's. And I said, hey, if you're not going to get A's and B's and the occasional C, you could go get D's and F's for free in public school. Because I'm not paying $30,000 a year for you to go flunk.
Right.
And then I got to pay extra money for you to go remediate the classes over the summer. It's bullshit.
Yeah.
So she gets all hissy. Instead of going, yeah, you need to work harder. No, she goes to the school. This was July 3rd of 2024. I got the phone call from a football coach over there, and he's laughing. He picks up the phone. He's laughing. I go, what's up? And he's like, your wife came to the school, and she's telling everybody that you abuse Vito. And, she seems unhinged. And, unfortunately, we're mandated reporters, so we got to report this to CPS. And I go, what the fuck? And I said, well, why the fuck are you laughing? And he goes, because we're all sitting here trying to visualize how you abuse Vito. Because Vito's legitimately a foot taller than me. He outweighs me by more than double my body weight. The kid's just a monster he's a man child. He always has been. He's been taller than me since the 5th grade.
Right.
So it turns into that situation. And, unfortunately, he hasn't spoken to me in over a year and a half.
Yeah.
And last Monday, I found out from one of his teammates at the public school that he no longer plays football or any sports. He quit because of really bad back injury. And I asked the kid, I said, oh, really? And the kid still doesn't know that I'm his father. And I said, hey, let me ask you a question. Was he lifting? And the guy's like, oh, no, he never lifted. And then I find out from another person who's a nutritionist in the area that they came into his shop telling them a sob story that the father is abusive and stop paying and they don't have access to, and he needs to drop weight and this and that. And the guy said, they took a liking. They saw a D1 potential athlete there, and they said, we'll get you the supplements. So they paid for like $300-400 worth of supplements for the kid. And before the guy could even finish his sentence, he goes, I know you're his father, but I just got to say, he's lazy, and he didn't follow your instructions, nor did he take the supplements. And he goes, yeah, how did you know? And I go, because I know the kid. Because I was the guy who provided the structure that I forced him to go lift. I was in the gym with him, lifting with him, teaching him how to like structure his life. You eliminate me from that whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like my daughter, she turned 7 in April. She was always going, I'm going to go to Brown because they don't have a core curriculum and I'm going to do my own thing, you know? Now she's 7. She comes and she goes, it's not important to be smart or successful, Dad. And I don't need to go to college. So this is the kind of stuff that I'm dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so painful for a guy like me who's so driven.
Yeah.
And, I know smart people. There are way smarter people than me on this planet. But the thing that separates smart people and successful people is that drive, is that willingness not to fucking give up and just to fight and to keep going and keep going and keep going. And unfortunately, I'm too stupid to quit.
Well, yeah, that's a good thing, though. At the end of the day, that's a good thing. Your drive, your dedication, because at the end of the day, I think that, your son's probably going to come back to you. They usually do at some point. They realize, like, oh, after their first or second or third crazy girlfriend, like, oh, wait, all these women are the same. Maybe my mom wasn't telling me the truth about my dad.
And I think ultimately that's what's going to end up happening. The last time, I have to have monitored visits off of some false allegations that she made that we can talk about.
Yeah.
But the last visit I had with them, which was like about 2 weeks ago, I moved out of my 2-bedroom apartment because I said, why do I keep paying for a 2-bedroom apartment if I don't even have the kids here anymore?
Yeah.
And I only get to see them for 4 hours a week. I was the most devoted father. I did everything. All right. The average day in the Kanik household, I'd wake up at 4:00 in the morning. We had a full gym in our garage. I'd write some emails, read some emails, go work out in my garage, come back, read a couple more emails, wake up the kids, get them ready for school, get them dressed, get them to brush their teeth, take them to school, come back, do some more emails, bring a cup of coffee to my ex-wife by her bed. Regularly, she would sleep in till 9, 11 o'clock every day. Her priorities were Pilates, hair, nails, lashes, tan. Okay?
I know she's a real housewife of Orange County, dude.
That's exactly what it is.
Like that's what we got.
Her father lived with us, had no job. I took care of him. Her brother is a legendary heroin and meth addict from San Clemente for 25 plus years. I guess he's sober now, so he's on a high horse. But I legitimately, about 4 years ago, paid three guys to go to St. Louis. I heard a phone call between my father-in-law and my mother-in-law where she was crying on the phone because he was squatting in her basement, refusing to leave, doing acid, heroin, and meth. And I guess his drug dealer came to beat the crap out of him one day and broke his skull open in front of the house and stuff like that. He had to have reconstructive surgery, emergency surgery to save his life, the whole thing. But he just kept doing drugs.
Yeah.
So I paid 3 guys to fly out there, pick him up, bring him back to California, and put him into rehab. He was sober for a year. Then he relapsed, and they found him on the streets of San Clemente, shoeless, sunburnt, tweaking out. They put him back into rehab. He went through the program again. He's had a couple relapses here and there. But every time he came to the house and he relapsed, I said to him, hey, man, I want to see the best out of you. But if you're in and out of drugs, I don't want you around my kids. So then I turned into a villain. Oh, how dare you? How dare you say something? How dare you put healthy boundaries? And the thing is, he always goes, oh, I can't see my nieces and nephews because Chris. I'm like, fuck you. Those are my kids. And I don't want my kids idolizing a fucking loser drug addict.
Right.
And I'm sorry for saying shit like that. And they want to paint me like I'm an abusive, verbally abusive. The facts are the facts.
Right.
You can't hold a job.
In family law, as we learn, the facts are flexible.
Facts mean shit in family law.
Right.
It's ridiculous. So to go back into it, I caught my wife making out with a guy. She went bar hopping. I found her drunk, potentially on drugs, because the group of guys offered me some cocaine. And I said, listen, I don't do drugs. I looked at my wife at the time and I said, I can't be here. I'm a public figure. All it takes is one person to take a picture of me and I'm done. I can't be here. And she begged me and she started getting aggressive. And I know how she gets when she gets really drunk like that. So I said, okay, you can stay. She called me no fun. And I was like, fun? I'm the
Right.
fucking definition of fun. So
Yeah.
calling me no fun is like calling Marty McFly chicken. And so like, I want to like, you know, and a couple hours later, yeah, I turned around and she was making out with one of the guys that she'd gone bar hopping with right in front of me.
Right, which then becomes your fault because you did something, and everything gets flipped. I mean, that's
Yeah.
family law, particularly
Family law.
from the
And
women.
anyway,
Everything is going to get flipped. You're going to always be the abuser. You're going to always be the problem.
Yeah.
You're the source of everything. No responsibility, no accountability for the women
no,
at all. And the
No.
men are just expected, like, just pay your child support and you'll be okay.
yeah, my attorneys, they all say, this would all get settled with money, if you started paying. And I'm going, this is crazy. This is absolutely insane. I go, the damages that she's causing here.
Right.
Well, we got back from Texas. She started pulling money out of bank accounts. She extorted me. She started going through all my documents in my home office. She started opening up all my mail. I would catch her and I would say, hey, and I would text her, stop opening up my mail. Oh, I didn't open your mail. Well, who opened my mail then? The mail fairy?
Yep.
She had no idea of the dynamics of our finances. She had no idea the dynamics of everything I was working on. Even to the point where a couple years back, I took a consulting gig for the Mike Tyson Cannabis Company as the chief science officer. I did that for 4 years. I was involved in FDA clinicals in partnership with NYU and the NFL. I was helping them pass a big tobacco audit, essentially creating the purest CBD on the planet. We're going after the pain indication. Yeah. Okay. In family court, that gets flipped into, I'm an illegal drug dealer.
Absolutely.
All right. The story I told you before is a very well-documented story about me and how I picked chemistry at 10 years old. In the restraining order that she filed 6 days after I filed for legal separation.
Right.
Okay. 13 years with this woman. Never one incident of domestic abuse. I filed for legal separation. There's a restraining order. I think it's like 163 pages of all lies. I read it. I was mortified. Mortified. I've never been in trouble with the law.
So let me ask you a question about that. Yeah. How many of those 163 pages were things that she'd been preparing for a month or 3 months prior? Has she been collecting evidence?
Oh, it's very clear to me that this was a very meditated, we hit the 10-year mark. It was a very meditated event, and everything had been collected over a series of years. I would say probably the last 5 years.
Yeah. Yeah. That tracks. That she just planned the whole thing from the get-go, and she's been meeting with her lawyer for at least 2 to 5 years to just strategize the whole thing to take you out at the nut as at the knees as quickly as possible.
Yeah, and so now I'm playing catch up, going wait.
Yeah,
like even in the restraining order, it said that I was a flight risk to Turkey, and she was afraid that I had a flight risk to Turkey. And I was like, I have Turkish citizen. I have dual citizenship. I don't even know if it's valid. I go, technically, I'm a fugitive in Turkey because I never served my military. If my citizenship is still valid, I'm a fugitive in that country because I never served my military duty. Okay. Furthermore, I have no Turkish passport. Okay. And because I am a fugitive, Turkey's the last. If the citizenship is valid, that'd be the last place I'd go because I don't want to spend the rest of my life in a Turkish prison.
In jail, right?
Yeah. So I go, that's ridiculous. And then the story that I told about MacGyver and wanting to learn how to blow things up.
Yeah.
That gets flipped into I fear for my safety and he's dangerous because he knows how to make bombs. I looked at her.
On all tracks.
I looked at her in the kitchen and I said, are you out of your mind? I said, this is exactly what's going on. And I'm telling you this right now. And God bless her. I hope she finds peace in life at some point. She probably won't because it's been a disaster.
She won't.
Let's put it this way. Her ex-boyfriend right before her is a witness for me. And he can testify and corroborate my stories that she has a drinking problem. She has a drug problem. She's been physically violent with him while drunk. She's been promiscuous while they were together, and that's why he left her. Okay? Yeah. Okay. So she says all this stuff. I looked at her and I said, in the kitchen, I remember she was extorting me. I said, Maria, you're extorting me. And she goes, you and your fancy nerd words. I said, nerd words? You're fucking Sicilian. You guys invented extortion. It's like, it's like the original gift that the Romans gave to this world. What do you want? You know?
Dude.
Let's put it this way. I was at the United Nations talking about sending resources to Gaza. I had a hell of a weekend. I had to take a red eye on a Thursday night.
Yeah.
Get to New York. Go to New York. The next day I was doing food distribution for the homeless in Jersey City, New Jersey. Then the next day I flew out to Arizona to go meet the founder of a beverage company. And then I had to fly back to LAX to do a podcast in LA. It was 8 o'clock in the morning. I took a shower in the Delta Lounge. I'm exhausted. And I go check my Amex to see all the charges. So I look at my Amex. I see this charge for a ridiculous amount of money. I was like, what the fuck is this? I start doing some research. She charged my Amex without me knowing for a boob job. So I picked up the phone. I'm a guy from New Jersey, New York. I picked up the phone and I said, I don't know what kind of fucking guy you think I am, but where I come from, this shit doesn't fly. Maybe in Orange County, this is cool, but around me, no. Around the people I know, no. I said, go get the next schmuck to pay for your fucking new tits. She goes, you're a fucking asshole. It's 50-50. I said, 50-50? Which tit is mine at the end of this fucking divorce? Which one do I get to keep that I paid for?
Right.
You know? And she goes, you're an asshole. She hung up on me. All right. Throughout this whole thing, I love my children very dearly. All the principals, all the teachers know that I was the most involved parent. I was always there. I attended everything. I coached my kids in sports. I coached other kids in sports. I've never had an issue with kids. The one thing I'd never done is spank my kids, lay a hand on my children. Never. Okay? When CPS did their investigation and interviewed all three of the kids, I was afraid that the oldest one, because he hadn't spoken to me in so long, was going to throw me under the bus. He actually said, all three kids said, Dad has never spanked me. Dad's not a disciplinarian. When asked, do you feel safe around Dad? My oldest son said, I've always felt safe around my father. The two younger kids, who were 6 and 10 at the time, both said, I don't feel safe because cops came to the house. Well, why the fuck did cops come to the house?
Yeah.
Cops came to the house because your mom was looking for something to get custody because she wanted more money. Right. Because, and this is the other point, she's tall, she's beautiful, attractive woman. She's very low IQ. And I know that's a new term now. Low IQ. And she barely has a high school education. Her family doesn't, her father never graduated high school.
Yeah. Between
them, they have either GEDs or, you know, I think she was the actual one that actually walked, but she has a learning disability. And it's heartbreaking because I really was trying to get my kids to not be like that and to be completely opposite. I never laid a hand on them, never touched them. However, November 10th of 2024, and we're just coming to statute of limitations here on that, I dropped off my two younger kids at their mom's apartment. You know, we moved out of a 10,000 square foot house in the gated community, the gated section of town. And now we were both living in 1,100 square foot apartments.
Ooh,
and
no wonder she's upset.
Yeah. She thought she was going to stay in the house and all that crap. And I was going to continue paying for everything.
Yep.
Okay. The thing, I dropped them off. I went to a restaurant a couple blocks down in town. I had a couple drinks. I had dinner. I was going to go back to my apartment and just crash. I had to revise my visitation. We had court coming up November 28th or 27th. 27th, we had court, 27th. And I was going to get it was for an RFO, and I was going to get modified custody, modified everything. Well, she calls the cops. That weekend, I bought my son a PS5, and I bought my daughter makeup from Ulta. It was part of the Wicked movie. It was a box set of all dark colors, purples, greens, And my daughter, she's a bit of a type A personality, very perfectionist, and she's left-handed. So she put the eyeliner on. And she couldn't put it on quite the same way this way. So she asked me, can you take it off and put it on? Okay, so I rub it off, I put it back on. She didn't like it. She's like, oh, it's not perfect. I said, okay, I'll try it again. So I rub it off, I put it back on. Oh, it's not perfect. Okay, I'll rub it off, put it back on. This went on 3 or 4 more times to the point where her skin got irritated.
I knew exactly where that was going.
So I left the makeup smeared here. That was on a Saturday that occurred. She refused to take a bath with me or let me comb her hair because, in her words, you're not the main parent and you can't give me a bath or comb my hair. Where the fuck does she get that shit from? Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
So I drop her off with the smeared makeup on her face. Well, I go have dinner. There's about a 45-minute span from the time I drop them off to the time I leave the restaurant. I hop in my car. My apartment's just a couple blocks down, maybe a mile away. So I'm driving. I get pulled over right by my apartment. I start pulling. I go, well, I'm here already. I might as well just park in a spot. So I go park in a spot, and I see 2 more OC sheriff cars waiting. They come to my car and they say, have you been drinking tonight? I said, well, I have had a couple, but I just parked. I have no record. I've never had a DUI. I've never done anything. I've never been in trouble with the law. And I said, well, do you remember punching your daughter in the face and choking her? And I said, excuse me? So then that turned into a whole debacle.
Right.
I get cuffed. I get sent away overnight. It was funny. 2 guys in the cell recognized me from TV. And they said, hey, are you that guy? And I said, nope. And I put my hoodie on. I'll never forget. I had a Giants sweatshirt on. I said, nope. And I put it, because I have this stupid haircut. So I'm very recognized. That's why I wear a hat now. And the cops pulled me aside, a couple minutes later. And they said, do you feel like you're at risk in the general population? I said, well, I don't know if I'm at risk. I've never done this before. But 2 guys just recognized me from TV. I don't know if that puts me at risk or not. Then they start Googling me in real time. Now I've got like 8 deputies. It was a week before the Tyson fight. They're like, who do you think's going to win? And I go, listen. And so I give them the lowdown on that. And they're like, what are you doing here? And I go, my wife's just trying to ruin my life, trying to destroy my reputation.
Take my kids from me, do the whole 9 yards. Yeah.
They put them in they put me in solitaire in protective custody. I get released. I get my phone back. I get a text from my oldest son, who I haven't communicated with since July of 2024. This is November. The text is, hey, clown emoji. Hope you enjoyed jail. That was from my oldest son. I go inside my apartment, and they give you a little baggie with your stuff. So my keys were at the bottom because it was the heaviest, so it dropped down to the bottom of the bag. I dropped the bag. I'm like cursing out in front of my apartment. I get the keys. I open up my thing. I start noticing things are missing in my apartment. I'm like, what? While I was in jail, they broke into my apartment, but not my wife. Not my wife.
No.
My wife's best friend with my 2 younger kids got into my apartment. They took the PS5. They took some clothes. They took some medication that I had gotten him on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
And then I messaged her on the Talking Parents app. I called the cops immediately. I was like, oh, my house just got burglarized. And then I said, wait, let me ask. Because the items that are missing are pretty strange. But it didn't,
Nope,
so.
Not at all.
I messaged her on the Talking Parents app. She said, oh, yeah, your door was open and Joey went in. Joey's my middle son. Joey went in. And I said, I never authorized anyone to take anything out of my apartment. That's stuff that I paid for. So then the officer asked me, she says, do you want to press, if you do a burglary report, there's, it's going to be against your son. I'm like, I'm not pressing charges against my 10-year-old son. They go, I'll just do like an incident report just to document the situation. I don't want to press charges. I don't want to do any of that stuff, And then I said, well, that PS5 needs to be returned because I got that for him for when he's here.
Yeah.
Well, no, that belongs to him. And so I'm going to give him this decision whether he wants to give it back or not. It still hasn't been returned. So now
of course not.
I'm
But
going to
this
take
is
her to,
Chris,
yeah,
what you've just described, like the entire drama that you've just described, all of this is exactly how women use their kids against men. This is
yeah,
all part of the silver bullet strategy to just take you out at the knees.
yeah. And
It's classic.
even though the district attorney rejected the charges because there was no evidence of child abuse after an investigation,
Right.
that was in January. I still have a restraining order against me with my kids. I still require a monitor. That's
Yep.
expensive. It cost me $160. My kids, the last time I had them, they keep asking, hey, why can't we spend more time with you? Why can't we do this? Why don't you take us to school? Why don't we do this with you? Why don't you do that? They don't understand what's going on, you
Right.
know? And my daughter said to me last time I saw them, I want to spend Halloween with you because you're the funner parent. And my son goes, I want to spend Christmas with you because you're the funner parent during Christmas. And I said, well, I would love to spend every day with you guys. Just, talk to your mom. That's what I said. Talk to your mom. And they both said, we did. She says it's not possible. Well, why is it not possible? It's not possible because she's doubled down on this victim mentality because she thought she was going to walk away with $20,000. She's taking money, handouts, loans from people, telling everybody, oh, don't worry, we're going to find the millions that Chris is hiding. The conversations while I was still living in the house that I overheard between her and her mother and her sister and her friend and her father are disgusting.
But it's all typical.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it's for you. It's horrible that you're going through this. And I don't mean to minimize it, but it's not unusual.
Yeah,
This
no,
is
and I know.
normal behavior for women today going through divorces and what men are experiencing.
And I went into this thing all very naive. I didn't understand the ramifications or consequences of the restraining order because I've never had a restraining order placed on me or placed on anybody else. So I didn't
Right.
really understand. I just read the document and said, well, that's a lie. That could be refuted. That's a lie. 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 And I
But
go,
lies
well,
count, and more importantly, when you're going into family court, the judges are more concerned with covering their butt.
yeah. And
They don't want to take the chance that Chris Kanik is actually the next O.J. Simpson.
That's right. Yeah.
Right? Like that's the risk that they're running all the time. That's literally what they're thinking. And so as a consequence, they're going to be overly protective and they go the other direction. And so guys get set up with the silver bullet BS and it just takes them right at the knees.
Yeah. And in the trial that we had, their only witness was the officer who arrested me, the main officer that arrested me. So they put him on the stand. They asked him all these questions. Before we got into the courtroom, I was in the hallway laughing with the guy, making jokes and this. And the other officer that was with him, he actually ran into me like 2 months after they arrested me. And he was like, hey, I got to tell you, you're one of the funniest guys we've ever arrested. And I said, well, I just want to let you know the DA rejected the case. And he goes, whoa, we were just doing our job. And I looked at him and I said, so were the Nazis.
Exactly.
I said, what you guys did actually put this in place in my life.
And they were total stooges.
Yeah. And because she was doing all this reputational damage to me that affected the business, it's cost me investment. Mm-hmm. It's forced me to pivot the strategy of the company.
Yeah.
All of that has now, a year ago, I served her with a defamation lawsuit. And it's not going to look good. And now I'm going to take her to small claims court for that PS5 because now my son thinks it's okay to enter somebody's apartment and take stuff.
Right.
I grew up in the shittiest part of New Jersey. I grew up in New York City. Never once have I been mugged or burglarized. I live in the bubble of the bubble of the bubble, and I get burglarized by an OC housewife and my son?
Yep.
I mean, how is that logical?
Welcome to OC Housewives, buddy. And that's the standard across the country.
Yeah. And so
that's what the women are learning. They're learning that it's okay to get away with that stuff. So where are you now in terms of like the divorce, the DV, and the case? Like, okay, so some of that stuff got dismissed. Where are you?
That stuff got dismissed. The trial, the hearing has been continued. My next hearing for the DV case is December 18th. I go to She sent me to the Department of Child Support Services. We had a
Yeah.
hearing August 19th. During that hearing, the commissioner ruled to reduce my child support from nearly $6,000 a month to $527 a month. My wife
Nice.
was furious. Furious. It's not going to look good. She's making more money than I am right now.
Good.
So technically,
are
I
you
should be
going after
asking
her
her
for
for
support?
alimony. I should be asking her for fucking alimony for the last 6 months. And she's going to have this defamation lawsuit. I'm going to take her to small claims court for all the stuff. I'm going to take her father to small claims court for the $2,200. And all I want, I've sent settlement proposal after settlement proposal, and it's all been denied.
Yeah.
All I want is 50-50 custody. I've offered to pay for her education because I think it's important that the kids see their mom being self-sufficient. They've denied that. I've agreed to pay for everything kid-related. They denied that.
Well, yeah, because she lives in the world where you've got millions of dollars that you're hiding that she's entitled to.
Yeah. Actually, a group, a family. Enjoy, guys. I hope you guys had fun. All right. I just had a family and 4 kids and husband, wife. They came in just to play in the wrestling ring here. I opened it up. The kids' faces, they were just like, whoa, I love kids.
Yeah.
I in the last 2 years, I've probably spoken at about 100 schools all around the world, either via Zoom or in person.
Mm-hmm.
And I talk about struggling, inspiration, trying to inspire them, even the disadvantaged. I love talking to economically disadvantaged kids.
Sure.
Because I don't think they're disadvantaged at all. I think they're the most advantaged kids because they know what it's like.
They actually are. I mean, if you think about like the biggest percentage of American self-made millionaires are in the immigrant community. They come in with nothing.
Yep.
And that fuels them. That's the drive. And so the kids that are disadvantaged are the ones that can have the drive to succeed like you.
Yeah.
And where you are right now is like, that's a temporary thing.
Yeah.
Your
it's
wife,
a temporary
your
thing.
soon to be ex-wife,
And you know what?
will someday, this will be over.
David, I got to tell you, as frustrating as this whole thing is, and as much as I love my kids, and that is the most painful thing, when my kids start crying because they want to spend more time with me.
Yeah.
And my son tears up and they're confused. That's child abuse. Okay. That hurts me. But I wish her the best. I really don't care. People will give me information here and there. Oh, she's dating so-and-so. And, she works at the church and she's in the front row with her hands up, but she's doing all this vile stuff.
Yeah.
And the pastor at the church that we used to attend, they were counseling me. And he said, oh, don't worry. Anything that you share with me, I won't ever share with her, and et cetera. And there I go. I look at the exhibits, the new updated exhibits. There are the text messages between the pastor and me. And I'm like, he just violated clergy privilege.
Yeah, and absolutely. You should be objecting to that, I would assume.
Yeah, but it's all ridiculous. They're going to try to catch me. And I'm not an angel. A few times during this whole process of very painful, depressing stuff.
Yeah.
I got drunk a couple times and I sent some not nice text messages. And those text messages now are the representation of who I am entirely. Well, at the end of the day, I'm still just a fucking human being. I grew up in New York.
Let me ask you a question, Chris. Yep. She's coming at you, both guns blazing. How much of that have you returned fire?
Yeah, I'm going after my own restraining order against her.
Okay.
And I think ultimately, if the judge rules,
I imagine, like my experience is, Mother Teresa did not marry the devil.
Yeah.
I don't care what she says and how many times she goes to mass. At the end of the day, she's probably got a lot of nasty text messages to you.
Yeah. It's verbal text messages, the way her family mooched off of me for 12 plus years.
Right. But my point is like, she's a bad mom. Yeah. And are you willing to like just go to the mats and prove that she's a bad mom and that she's abusing the kids? Because
absolutely,
that's what most men don't do. They hide behind this BS of she's my kid's mom. I can't do that. And I'm like, fuck that. Well, you're the kid's dad, and she has no problem throwing you to the wolves.
Yeah, she has no problem. At one hand, she wants me to continue paying her $20,000 a month. On the other hand, she wants to ruin my reputation. These things don't go
Yep.
hand in hand.
And I always see that. I don't understand why they do that. Like they just cannot get the connection that like if you do this, the impact over here is you're not going to have any money.
Yeah, and that's what she's facing now. And I think the harsh reality is she's going to end up. And here's the truth of the matter: if I get hit with sanctions, and I have to pay her $250,000, I'm just going to BK. Her lawyer's not going to get dick from me. And then she's almost $250,000 in debt herself from people that she's taking money. She's never made $250,000 in her life. Right. She's going to have to BK. So now the kids have two parents who have both BK'd. And the one parent who can financially stabilize everything is being ruined by this parent. Right? And everybody has told me over the last year, don't badmouth the mom, don't badmouth the mom, don't badmouth the mom, take the higher road, or this and that. I'm sick and tired of keeping my mouth shut. I'm sick and tired of it. And what I have found is, and I went into this blind, naive, I didn't realize that this goes on with a lot of men. A lot of good men get ruined by this process. And so I am going to devote my life moving forward to galvanizing change in legislation to help men like me, good men, who have been abused by the system, who've been failed by the system, who've been abused by their exes, and who have been exploited by divorce attorneys. I think the solution to all of this is holding divorce attorneys accountable. Because if you start hitting them financially, they'll back off. They'll start giving more sensible fucking advice to their... you know what? It is just so ridiculous. If you hold the divorce attorneys, I've heard divorce attorneys in the hallway going, well, he's worth about $500,000. You take 200, I'll take 200, and then they'll take 100 to split. So they'll just drag it on. I've heard this. I go, you guys.
I don't doubt it. I've been in court in Orange County. I know those lawyers.
You guys swore to take an oath. You're supposed to be ethical. And here you are managing how you're going to suck the funds. Her lawyer doesn't care about my kids. I hear her lawyer bragging about her kids that are going to NYU and XYZ. What about my kids? How about my oldest son now, whose future is completely derailed?
So I'm not going to try and make apologies for lawyers because I know that
you're a lawyer.
Does happen 100%.
Yeah.
But there's another big player here who's driving this far more than the lawyers. And that is the bad mom. Because the lawyers, no matter how much they want to drag this shit out and they want to like be at each other's throats and suck all the money out, can't do it
unless
if
someone
you
allows
and the
you
mom
to.
Don't want to do it.
Unless someone allows it.
It's her crazy emotionality, her irrationality that lets them take advantage.
Absolutely.
If she was reasonable and you were reasonable, wouldn't happen.
Last week,
I had a client. I'll just tell you a quick story. I had a client come in, and he was worth somewhere between $80 to $150 million. He walked in and said, "Listen, she wants this house and she needs this much in support. I just need you to like button up and do the paperwork. What's it going to cost me? $20,000 total for his divorce on my side.
Yeah.
To do his entire, like they had like kids and properties and a whole a mess." Because they were reasonable. If one party is irrational, it doesn't matter what you do to the lawyers.
That's right.
It doesn't matter how much you try and punish me for her bad behavior. The reality is she's going to continue acting that way.
Well,
I hear you in terms of like, we need to do something with the lawyers. Great, fine, whatever. At the end of the day, we need to do something with the borderline personality that you're dealing with because you got a borderline on your hands. Yeah. She's a honey badger of humanity.
It's funny because she flipped the script and she was telling people all over that. She was saying all sorts of crazy stuff, and she was saying that I was diagnosed narcissist and bipolar and all that stuff.
Yeah, everyone's a narcissist.
I said to my lawyer, I said, I can't take this anymore. I'm going to go get a psychological evaluation. My attorney said, don't do it because if they do find something, now it's recorded and it's documented and they could use it against you. I said, I'm pretty confident that I'm not crazy. And that there's not something wrong. So I had 2 independent psychological evaluations conducted on me. Even after they came back, no personality disorders, no nothing. She still continued.
Chris, we have a phrase in the VIP program at Jazz Law School. Every accusation is an admission.
Yeah.
Whatever she's accusing you of, she's doing. You're abusing the
100%.
kids. She's the one abusing the kids. You're the narcissist. She's the borderline.
Yeah.
That's just the way it is.
I know.
And this, I applaud you for at least having the testicular fortitude.
Yeah.
To want to, go out there and help educate other dads, because that's part of my mission, is to like reach these guys to like see it before you get destroyed.
Yeah.
Do something beforehand to protect yourself.
I mean, I started stand-up all over again. All my stand-up jokes are around my divorce.
Oh, geez, I can only imagine. I got it back up to you.
What I'm doing is I'm taking all the heinous shit that she's done, and I'm turning it into comedy. And you don't know how many times I get off stage and guys come up to me and they say, shit, I went through a messy divorce, man, and they give me a hug.
Yeah.
It's 50% of the population, right? It's like 80% in Orange County, California. Ladera Ranch has an even higher than the average for Orange County, because it's a I need. The grass is greener on the other side. I'm not content.
Like that's a much bigger conversation of how feminism has betrayed women, and they think that they got the right end of the deal, and they didn't. Like feminism destroyed families and women.
Oh,
and they have unrealistic expectations, and they truly need to have a reset. But it's probably not going to happen in my lifetime.
We're not going to happen. Well, I don't know. I think the pendulum is swinging a little bit. I had a couple interesting conversations with Sergeant Slaughter last week.
Yeah.
So
it's interesting, like the female lawyers that I talk to, they're really insightful. And I represent mostly men. Like I think I've had 2 female clients in the last like 5 years. Yeah. And the reality is female lawyers look at me, and when we start talking and I start talking about how men are abused and they're this and they're that, and they're actually better clients, they're like, you're 100% right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Most lawyers would actually rather represent just the men, because they're the easier, more reasonable client, but the money's in representing the woman. If I really wanted to go make $2 million next year, I'd drop everything and it would become Women's Family Law Center of Los Angeles. I'd be booked in no time.
Yeah. Well, I want to say thank you for everything that you do, because, as the shit started like hitting the fan for me, I started consuming more and more content, on this topic. And I find all your videos very insightful, very helpful.
Thank you.
I'm a big fan of what you talk about. And, when all the dust is settled, I want to be kind of like an extension of you, and kind of from my own experiences share with men like what to do and what not to do. It's a slippery slope. And for a guy with my temperament, with my competitive drive, I refuse to lose. I refuse to settle down, and bow down to a system. Like I said, how I started. My mom came to this country for freedom of speech. She watched people get shot in the head on the streets of Cuba because they talked out against, they said their opinions.
Yeah.
Okay. You want to call me verbal? You want to charge me with verbal abuse because I called my wife a whore after I watched her cheat on me multiple times? Well, there's a word in the English dictionary that describes, as an adjective to describe a woman who is married with 3 kids, who gets taken care of, doesn't have a job, gets her father taken care of, and still commits adultery. There's a word for that.
There is.
You could pick other choice words, but I decided to choose whore. Okay? So.
Hey,
But it is what it is.
We're meant to describe things for a reason.
I take every bad thing and I turn it into a positive. Like the grow the fuck up.
Yeah.
I bought the URL. I've printed some t-shirts. I'm going to go make money off of it. Every bad thing that she's going to do to me, I'm going to flip and I'm going to turn into a positive. That's my mission.
Good.
So,
well, I'm looking forward to working with you on it going forward.
Hey, thanks, David. I appreciate you having me on. I'm a big fan. Thanks for
Chris.
letting me do the trauma dump here Saturday morning. Instead of Saturday morning cartoons, you got a fucking trauma brag.
Well, I'll tell you, here's the reality. You know, on the one hand, it's like, yeah, you're trauma dumping. On the other, there are men out there who are going to watch this podcast, who are going to see this video, who are going to be like, I'm going through that. They're going to identify, and they're not going to put a bullet in their head because they're not the only one.
Oh, yeah.
Let me tell you. The only one, That's a
Yeah.
solution.
Yeah. Let me tell you something. There were moments where I just said it would be a lot easier if I just didn't exist anymore.
100%.
I can't take this anymore.
The most viral video I did on my old TikTok channel was I held up 2 DVDs. I had an Orange County sheriff. He used to run the bomb sniffing dogs, and for whatever reason, he married a porn actress, and she did the whole DVRO, restraining order BS, put him through
Yeah.
the ringer, the whole nightmare, like 3 or 4 times. Took the kids, moved to the UK, came back, took the kids, went through her bipolar craziness. And he sent me those 2 DVDs, and one of them was for me because of the documentary I'm working on, men who are
Yeah.
victims of domestic violence, and one was for his kids to tell them his side of the story because he was going to take himself out. That's how bad it gets. And
Yeah.
here's a guy who had everything going for him, but
Yeah.
got chewed up in the system, and he was in the system, and he still got chewed up.
The one thing that you can't do to good men is take their kids away from them.
Yeah.
That's it. That is a sin. That should be criminal.
Absolutely.
And I did everything right. I did
Most
everything
men
right.
do.
And if you want to take 5 days out of 12, 13 years, a total of like 4,600 days, and you want to take 5 incidents of text messages, and you want to say that's a demonstration of who he is in totality, less than 0.001% of the time, not even 1% of the time.
That is exactly what's happening, and you got to remember that of who's doing that, because if you follow the money, you see who's really doing that. And a lot of people are like, "Oh, it's the family lawyers, it's divorce lawyers are driving it." Bullshit. It's not us.
It's
You know
the
who's
culture.
really doing it? Feminists in the domestic violence lobby.
Yep.
There's money in the DV shelters.
Yep.
That's who's driving it.
So
They're the ones who took this from, domestic violence was O.J. Simpson allegedly murders Nicole Brown Simpson, through to now we're at this crazy, wacky world of coercive control.
oh yeah.
Like what does that mean?
They want to say I financially
means.
coerced her. That's the other thing. They want to say I financially coerced her. Well,
Oh yeah, that's a big one.
why would you? I paid all the bills. We were never late on anything. My wife didn't even know how to write a check when I married her. She had no credit cards. She forgets everything. She doesn't pay anything on time. Why would I give the control of finances?
Well, it's not that you gave her control. It's that you didn't go over the bills every month with her.
Oh, I went over the bills.
Where every dollar came from and where it went. Oh, and by the way, if you did that, that would also be considered coercive control because you're mansplaining to her.
Oh yeah, I would show her spreadsheets.
You just can't win. No matter what, they're going to flip it on you.
No, but anyway,
it's craziness. All right. I got to let you get back to work. I know I got to get back to work. This has been great. I really enjoyed having you. I look forward to working with you in the future on other fun projects.
Yeah.
Thanks for being here, Chris.
Yeah. Thanks, David. I appreciate it.
Cool, man. Okay, all right. Just hold on. Let this thing finish uploading so I can figure out how to stop recording.